Lily, the Lion, and the Eagle by Elizabeth Baxter. Forward. 3 eras have divided Ogdensburg. The first, 1749 to 1760, was French and Catholic, symbolized by Fort La Présentation, founded by Abbé François Piquet, Sulpician priest and the missionary of the King of France. The second, 1760 to 1796, was British and military, exemplified by Fort Oswegatchie, a stronghold of His Majesty's forces for the glory of the sovereign Lord George II, and after him the sovereign Lord George III. The third, since 1796, has been American and commercial. Ogdensburg had no common heritage, but hybrid roots. 18 of its years were blighted by wars: the 7 Years' War, the Revolutionary War, and the War of 1812. But in all those years of conflict, only 2 hours of one day were a time of battle. That was on the morning of February 22, 1813. For the rest of the War of 1812, Ogdensburg was a no-man's land. This book is an attempt to examine the foundations of Ogdensburg's American colonial period. Chapter 1. A Confusion of Forts. The ancient site that is Ogdensburg, New York, had its beginning in Canada in a confusion of forts, 2 French and 2 British, and 2 unfinished American defenses. The first was French Fort La Présentation, 1749 to 1760, an Indian mission which became British Fort Oswegatchie, 1760 to 1796, on the peninsula where the Oswegatchie River darkly joins but never truly merges with the blue waters of the St. Lawrence River. Oswegatchie was an Indian term meaning black water. Fort La Présentation got its name from the day Abbé François Piquet, Sulpician missionary, first visited the place, November 21st, the feast of the presentation of the Blessed Virgin in the temple. French Fort Lévis, built in 1759 on Ile Royale in the St. Lawrence River, 5 miles below Fort La Présentation, surrendered August 25, 1760, to the British after the last real battle between the French and the British in North America. The English called it Fort William Augustus. When the invading British arrived August 17, 1760, they found Fort La Présentation empty, described it as a very good Indian settlement with a blockhouse fort but abandoned. None of the forts was preserved or rebuilt. All have been underground ruins, unseen for almost 2 centuries. The French posts gave their allegiance to King Louis XV, and the British forts to His Majesty George III. Construction of 2 forts was begun by Americans late in 1812, but never was completed. The place then was known as Oswegatchie. Fort Van Rensselaer consisted of ramparts at the site of British Fort Oswegatchie and the latter's old barracks. American Fort Oswegatchie was an unfinished redoubt on the south shore of the St. Lawrence River, more than a half-mile downstream from Fort Van Rensselaer. A small group of American settlers arrived at Oswegatchie on August 11, 1796, led by Nathan Ford, agent for the landowner Colonel Samuel Ogden. They lived for years in buildings at former British Fort Oswegatchie. In the War of 1812, the last fighting in the Battle of Ogdensburg was at the ruins of the old British fort, February 22, 1813.